Alright, we're going to run through this slideshow. So I know the answers are on the slideshow, but just in case you wanted just a quick little walkthrough on how to do each of them, here we go. So this number 1 says, Alex works at a food stand at a baseball stadium. He uses a quarter of his supply of hot dog buns to make hot dogs and 3/8 of his supply to make brats. If Alex uses 350 hot dog buns, we want to know how many are in his supply. So first thing we know that he uses a quarter of his supply to make hot dogs and 3/8 of his supply to make brats. Now, he's going to end up using 350 total. So what we know is that he used a quarter of his supply. Do we know how much that is? Do we know how much his supply is? No. So we're going to call that X. And then in addition, he used 3/8 of his supply to make brats. And again, we don't know how much his supply is, but we know that all that he used ended up equaling 350 hot dog buns. So then we're going to go ahead and type in our calculator 1 ABC4 plus 3 ABC8, and that would give us 5/8 X, which equals 350. So then our next step in solving, we're just going to solve for X. We're going to divide by 5/8 on both sides. That cancels, and we have X equals 560 hot dogs. That would be our answer there. So, on to the next question here. We have this next one. So, we're going to select all that apply. So, looking at my graph, I'm going to select all that apply. So, letter A says the relationship is proportional. The relationship is proportional. Remember, for a relationship to be proportional, that means it has to go through the origin. So looking here, does this line go through the origin? And yes, it does. So, calling this proportional, we are going to go ahead and say this is proportional. So A would be a correct answer. Then we are going to see if the rate of change is 1/2. So that means we could go from my origin, or from my y-intercept at the origin, to the next point, meaning that I would go up 1 and over 2, because of course we know that slope is written as 1/2, and rate of change is another way to say slope. So we're going to go up 1/2, and that is not a spot on my line where I go up 1/2. So we know that that is not the case there. So next step, we are going to look and see if the rate of change is 3. So same thing, if I go up 1 over 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, there's not a spot there on my line. So the answer is no here. So then the next one says the equation of the line is y equals 2/5x. Now, that is telling me, because there's no y-intercept, that's telling me my y-intercept is 0, which is true for this one, and that my slope of my line would be 2/5. So we know that it already has the right y-intercept, so let's check. We're going to go up 2 and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And yes, that would be correct. So A, D, and the last one, the relationship is linear. Is this a straight line? Yes, it is. So E would also be correct. All right, looking at our next one. So this is a 2-part question. First part says, the graph below shows the number of laps swam in X minutes after the swimmer starts. We want to know the slope of the line. So remember, slope is rise over run. So we find our dot on the left side, which would be here. And then we go to the next dot, starting by going up. So we're going to go up 1, 2, and then over 1, 2, 3. So my slope would be 2/3. So then part B says, Sarah says the graph shows that the swimmer is swimming at a rate of 3 laps per minute. Is she correct? So we're going to look through. Letter A says Sarah is correct because the swimmer is swimming at a rate which is about 3 laps per minute. So just to look at this, a dot that would be 3 laps per minute. Time in minutes would be right here. Laps is here. That means that after 1 minute, I would have 3 laps, which would be a dot right there. So does that line have that? No. So A is not correct. Part B says, letter B says, Sarah is not correct because the swimmer is swimming at a rate which is faster than 3 laps per minute. So that would be saying that my slope would be even greater than that for 3 laps per minute. Is that true? Nope, that is also wrong. Letter C says Sarah is not correct because the swimmer is swimming at a rate which is slower than 3 laps per minute. So does my line, my slope, is it less than what it would be for 3 laps per minute, which would look something like that? Yes, it is slower. So far C is the correct answer, but we just need to double check. Looking at D, Sarah is correct because the rate of laps swam per minute is less than the slope. So the rate of laps swam per minute is the slope. So that would be wrong. So the correct answer there is D. C is the correct answer there. All right, next one. We are going to solve this equation. So first step, do I see parentheses? Yes, I see parentheses, so we're going to distribute. So we have negative 0.4, and negative 0.4 times x is, yes, negative 0.4x, and negative 0.4 times negative 50 would give us positive 20, and that's equal to, everything else will drop down, plus x. Then we see, is there anything I can combine on either side? No, there is not, so we're going to go ahead and solve. So remember, we always move our variable first, so we're going to subtract x from the right to the left. It cancels. Negative 0.4x minus x would give me negative 1.4x plus 20, and minus 78 drops down. Our next step, we are going to subtract 20 on both sides, and that cancels. So I have negative 1.4x, which equals negative 78 minus 20 would be negative 98. And then our very final step, how do we get x by itself? We divide. So we're going to do negative 98 divided by negative 1.4. So we're going to divide by negative 1.4 on both sides. That would cancel. So x would equal 70. So the correct answer here would be D. All right. Next question here. It says Danny is opening a savings account with an initial deposit of $45. He saves $3 per day. So immediately we know, is he gaining money or losing money? He's gaining money because he's saving money. So we immediately know that these two graphs right here with negative slopes would be wrong because we're not losing money. So that would be wrong and that would be wrong. So then we're going to look at the parts of our graph. So he's opening a savings account with an initial deposit of $45. So that means my initial value is $45. So we're going to start and see if we can decide by just the y-axis. The y-intercept. So looking here, would this give me $45? No, because it's below 40. So immediately you know, this also can't be it. So let's double check here. Is this above 40? It is. Let's see. And they go by, so this would be 50. So about halfway between 40 and 50 is 45. So the correct answer here would be B. All right, next question. We are going to match each of these equations to its number of solutions. So I'm just going to go ahead and solve them for you. So this is the very first one. Negative 5x minus 23x minus 4 equals 7 times the quantity of negative 4x plus 4. So first thing, do I see parentheses? Yes, I see parentheses. So we are going to distribute. So everything else drops down. So I'm negative 5x minus 23x minus 4 equals negative 28x plus 28. All right, so our next step, we are going to combine like terms. So I can combine this and this. Can I combine anything on the other side? No, I cannot. So I have, let's see if I can make those boxes a little neater so that I have more space to write there. So I have negative 28x minus 4 equals negative 28x plus 28. So let's see, next step. Remember, we need to get rid of our variables first, so we're going to add 28x on both sides. And what happens here? They cancel. So our variables disappeared, so we immediately know that it's either going to be one solution or infinite, or no solution or infinite solution. So looking here, does 4 equal 28? No, and it never will. So our answer here would be no solution. Okay, no solution. All right, next. Let's see, we have 3x plus x plus 7 equals 9x minus 5x plus 7. So let's see, do I have parentheses? Nope, so we're just going to go ahead and combine like terms. So we're going to combine 3x with x. And what about on this side? Yep, we can combine 9x with negative 5x. So 3x plus x is 4x plus 7. And 9x minus 5x will give us 4x plus 7. What do you notice? Yes, this half is exactly the same as this half. Now, if you wanted to go a step further, you could. And you could say, I'm going to subtract 4x on both sides. That would cancel, that would cancel. So we have 7 equals 7. Does 7 equal 7? Sure does. So this would be infinity or infinite solutions. All right, let's look at this last one. You're assuming it's probably going to be one solution, right? Well, let's double check here. Let's double check. So we're going to start. Do I see parentheses? Yes. We're going to distribute. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 1.2 is 4.8 equals x plus 2.5 plus 2x plus 4.5. Next step, we're going to combine like terms. Can I combine anything on the left side? Nope. So we're going to combine over here. I can combine the x with the 2x. Oh, and I can combine my 2.5 with my 4.5. So I have 4x plus 4.8 equals 3x plus 7. Right, so 2.5 plus 4.5 equals 7. So let's now check. We are going to get a new color here. So we are going to subtract 3x on both sides. That cancels. So 4x minus 3x is x plus 4.8 equals 7. So then a couple more steps here. We are going to we're going to subtract 4.8 on both sides. That cancels. So x equals 2.2, which means there is one solution because x equals a number. So, in case you are keeping track, this one would be, we can do this in white maybe so we can see it. So, this one would be no solution. This one would be infinite solution, and this would be one solution. All right, next one. We are going to solve this equation. First step, do I see parentheses? No, I do not. Can I combine like terms? Yes, so we're going to combine 3/4 and 2/5. Mr. Rhodes, I'm not going to combining with fractions. Good news is you have a calculator. Type it in. 3 ABC 4 plus 2 ABC 5. What does that give us? That's an ugly number, Miss Rhodes. It sure is, but you know what? That's fine. So we have 1 and 3 over 20x equals 10 plus x. So next step, we got to get all of our x's on the same side. So we're going to subtract an x minus an x over here. That cancels. Okay, so we are going to do, that cancels. So we'd have 3 over 20x equals 10. And how do I get x by itself? Yes, we are going to divide by 3 over 20, and that cancels. And what I do to the left, I must do to the right. So x equals 66 and 2/3. So that would be my correct answer there. 66 and 2/3. So A. All right. A couple more questions here. So this next one says the graph shows the amount of savings over time in Eliana's account. The amount that Lana saved after X weeks is given by the equation y equals 45x. If they both begin with 0, who is saving at the greater rate? So let's start. We're going to find Eliana's rate, and she is by the graph. So looks like they both start at 0. Let's see. Eliana could go up. We can go right there. So we're going to go up 1, 2 over 2, but did I actually go up 2? No, I went up, what is my scale here? So that's 96. So half of 96 would be 48. So in between there is 48. So I went up 96, right? And then I went over 2. Does that simplify it all? It does. 48. So Eliana's rate is 48. We could say dollars per week. And then Lana's rate is just a slope. So Lana's rate was $45 per week because we know that slope is connected to x when it's written in slope-intercept form. And so whose rate is greater? Of course, Eliana. Ooh, we should probably write that in a different color, just so we can see it. Eliana, because 48 is greater than 45. All right, last question here. So this says, Alyssa is renting a boat. The boat rental company charges $150 for a rental deposit and an additional $20 hourly rate. For how long can Alyssa rent the boat if she pays a total of $310? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start by making our equation. So what is my y-intercept? Remember, we're looking for y equals mx plus b. So what would my b be? Oh, my y-intercept would be, yes, 150, because that's my initial value. So that's what I have to pay no matter what. That's where I'm starting. Then my slope. What would my slope be? What's my rate? Yes, so my rate would be $20 per hour, and x would be my number of hours. Yes, because $20 per hour, per means we're multiplying, so $20 times x. Now, this is saying I actually already know how much I'm going to pay. I'm going to pay $310. We just want to figure out how many hours. So 310 would go in for y. So we do 310 equals 20x plus 150, and then all you're going to do is solve for x. So we're going to subtract 150 on both sides, and you get 160, I believe. 310 minus 150 in my head, yes, just double checking. So that cancels. So we would have 160 equals 20x. Then our final step, we would divide by 20, that cancels. So x would equal 8. So our answer here would be B, 8 hours. All right, remember, you can pause, rewind as necessary. I know I went kind of quick there, but make sure that if you are studying, this lines up directly with the practice test that you did as well. And so both of those will line up with your test. So if you don't know how to do number 1, practice number 1 on both this and the practice test so that you can be ready for the test tomorrow. All right, see you later.